I'm going to be doing a recipe for phyllo cups that are made with sauteed mushrooms and goat cheese. And once I'm done the recipe, you can find it on my website, which is myhalalkitchen.com, and you can get the cards over there. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to deal with the mushrooms. The best way to clean mushrooms is to soak them in water. You see all this dirt that's coming off? I don't know if you can tell, but the dirt is actually going to the bottom. So what you want to do is soak them and then pull them out. That's how you get rid of all the dirt. And then what you're going to do is with a paper towel, you would just wipe it off. It's very clean that way. You never want to dump it, because when you dump it, all the dirt's coming back into the mushrooms. So let's say in this recipe we have our clean mushrooms. You want to take off the stems, but you can still use most of the stems. So the only part of it that I would cut off is just that dirty end, because you want to keep most of it. It's very flavorful. So I would just dump that. And for this recipe, we're going to cut them very, very fine. Make it really small because they need to fit into these phyllo cups or these. There's two different sizes I'm going to show you. So in this recipe, we're not going to use olive oil or any other oil. We're actually going to use butter. I would add about 3 tablespoons of butter. Next, I would add 2 shallots. These look like onions, but they're not. They're very similar to onions, but they have a sharper taste. And they look just like any other onion, but they're purple. So you can cut them, peel them, just exactly like any other onion. And I would cut them small like this. This is about 2 large ones. You can find them about this size. This is about the biggest you'll see them. And then there's smaller ones too. So I would just add shallots first. And then I would add my mushrooms. But I would add about 1 pound of mushrooms. And most packages come in about 1 pound. So you would add the whole pound to the pan. I would let that saute for about 3 to 5 minutes, constantly churning and turning, just so that it all gets nice and brown. And then I would add garlic cloves, about 2 garlic cloves. And I would do this last, because when you cook garlic for too long, it gets too early in oil or butter, it gets kind of bitter. So I would add that last. The next thing I would add is salt. And in this recipe, I use a sea salt because I like the flavor. And table salt actually contains aluminum, so I don't use table salt at all. I use a kosher salt or a sea salt or an all-natural salt. You can find them in most health food stores. Are kind of expensive. Sometimes Asian markets carry really nice salts. So I would add about half a teaspoon of that. And I would also add some dried parsley to that. About a teaspoon or so, and this is dried basil. I would add a little bit of that. So you've got, let's say you have a pound of mushrooms sauteing. You're done in about 7-8 minutes. It doesn't take very long, but the thing you want to make sure you do is cook it until it's all dry. You don't want to have any wet or moist mushrooms, because they won't make these very moist. So you need the salt to be very dry. So you'll let it cool off, and you'll basically just put it away, put it to the side. And this is what they will look like. It'll look a little bit like this, but we're going to dress it up more. So right now it's not looking, the most appetizing. We're going to actually make it really pretty, really tasty, even more so. So the next step is to heat up your oven to 350, because we have to put the phyllo dough inside of it. So now we're basically going to make phyllo cupcakes, you could call them, or phyllo cups. You have a whole package of phyllo. Everybody makes baklava with these, or any other kinds of desserts and such. But this is savory, and it's really, really simple. So this is a whole package. It's a whole package. We're not going to use all of this. We're actually going to roll it out and cut it in half. And this is half. I've already cut it. First thing we have to do is have melted butter. My butter is not that melted right now, but I would use a pastry brush, and it would be a lot more melted. But basically I would brush this. I don't know if you can see. I would brush the pastry dough, and I would add fresh herbs. So here I have parsley, which I'm not going to use till later. I have thyme, oregano, and sage. So what I would do is I'm going to cut each one a little bit. So I'm going to take just the leaves off, take off the oregano. Thyme is a little bit harder because you don't want the branches, you only want the stems. You only want the leaves, I'm sorry. So I get about 6 tablespoons of the herbs. I want 6 tablespoons total. I would chop them all together so they become very, very fine. And I'm going to just drizzle them on here. Just a little bit. We really don't need a lot. And I'm going to continue to do that for 4 sheets. So this will take 4 sheets. And let's just say I'm drizzling the herbs here. We would pretend that I had 4 sheets here. Now here's where we get a little bit scientific. So if I want to use a muffin tin that's large, I'm going to have to measure. I'm going to measure how long the muffin tin is. This is about 3 inches long or 2.5 inches. If I want to use a smaller muffin tin, I'm going to measure less than that, about 2 inches. So let's say I want to go with the larger tins. I'm just going to measure about 2 inches or 3 inches this way, and then about 2 or 3 inches this way. So I'm going to eyeball it here. If I have 4 sheets, and I'm going to stick them in the muffin tin, so I get a nice sort of cupcake there. And then I would bake it on 350 for 8 to 10 minutes. Your mushrooms are already cooled off. Now I'm going to use a very interesting ingredient, which I love, which is goat cheese. You can use mozzarella cheese, feta cheese, whatever cheese you like. We'll just put it inside the cup. And then we just add a little bit of the mushroom. Now we'll stick it back into the oven for 3 minutes only. Once it comes out, the cheese will be nicely melted. And then you can take some fresh parsley, just spread it on top. And I have some fresh Parmesan cheese, which is always a wonderful thing. Halal Healthy just introduced me to this new seasoning, and I think it would be a nice addition to the top, just to give it like an added flavor. They're like mini cupcakes, and I wish you could taste them because they're so delicious. And they're very easy to eat. You want to eat 3 or 4 at a time. They're so wonderful. So it's a very easy recipe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.